Oh, I hit it again. I was going to give like another 30 seconds on the intro. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are in the world, or good evening. I don't know. I'm losing track of days. This month of August have just absolutely flown through. It is the 27th day of August in the year 2020. All I know is that we're getting closer to the end of this year, which hopefully is the end of a lot of things. I'm thrilled to be back here on the podcast live with my first guest today on the Networking Power Hour, Mr. Justin Michael. I am thrilled to have him on. He's going to talk about a whole bunch of things. He is an advisor, the podcast host of the Beyond Sales Development Show, and author of Tech Powered Sales coming out in 2021. Justin, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, Adam. Great job on that intro. Yeah, I've been prolific as of late. I decided to finally write a book and just turned 40, the new 30. Been in enterprise sales for 13 years, sales for 20 years, and I've been doing a lot of experiments with technology. So I decided to write it down, kind of be the Tony Stark of sales technology platforms. I don't know how many B2B sellers or marketers are on the show, but a few years ago, I had some VCs back me, and I got to spend a few $1 million to build out all this automation to try to replace the human operators, which is not possible.
No, and we're going to certainly get into that in a little bit. But let's pull back the curtain a little bit. You know, where are you from originally, man?
Los Angeles, and here in Santa Barbara. And I actually got started doing like music business marketing. I had a MySpace with 200,000 followers, which
did you know Tom? Was Tom your friend on MySpace?
Tom was my friend. You know, if I made an AI, I'd bring him back as Tom. But I just hit the 30,000 cap on LinkedIn, so I can't add any more connections. But it took me 15 years to get there.
You know, it's interesting too. And we talk about LinkedIn a lot too. I've been on LinkedIn. You used to work at LinkedIn, right? You had a sales stint there a number of years back, right? 2016 or something like that.
It was a lot of fun. I was on their sales tech side for Sales Navigator for those that use it.
Oh man, it's I mean, I played around. I mean, I've used every piece of equipment on LinkedIn. They give me a free month of Sales Nav that I've been playing with, and it's been cool to really be able to utilize it best and combining it with some other external software. I don't want LinkedIn to be listening here, but I figure out a couple of fun little hacks with Sales Nav. So you're born and raised Los Angeles, correct?
Yeah. I've seen Toluca Lake, if you can believe that. It's a man-made lake. It's back there. You have to live on it to see it. But
you have to find it, man. I mean, there's kind of like that laid back vibe of California, but you have that kind of New York kind of, swagger a little bit. I could tell it there, man. But, Tony Stark, right? I mean, he's a fictional character, right? But this guy is somebody that so many, tech people, Silicon Valley, Silicon Slope, Silicon Alley, whatever Silicon you're living in, really try to emulate. But what I want to understand, man, you had a couple $1 million of VC money to play with. Tell us about some of these ideas that turned into real products.
Yeah,
wherever you can, man. I don't want to get censored here.
Yeah, I'm not going to get a
cease and desist orders.
Well, we did a lot of interesting things, right? First, we acknowledged that the artificial intelligence probably couldn't replace the machines. I got picked from a list. There was like a contest type thing, and I got flown to San Francisco. And then I just sat for 3 hours and described everything I'd ever done to get a meeting for a software company. And there were like 15 engineers sitting there like scribbling notes, like, we're going to turn that into software. We're going to turn that into software. And so I took over this operation, and we acquired a Swedish message, like sentence injection company. And what this did is it tried to emulate writing sentences. So like someone big on here, like Adam Posner, if I try to reach out to anyone on this call, it's going to always choose Adam, and had these cool lists. So you could suppress the most common one. You don't want everyone to know, Gary V. So you could suppress that one and then write how you knew it. And you could send these emails that had technographics, psychographics, and firmographics, a lot of big words just to show personalization. And it would pass the Turing test. The recipient of the email had no idea that it came from a machine, which was super, super powerful. So that was one of the fun things we learned. And we did a lot of automation. We sent 1 million emails, and shout out to the co-founder there, Ben Sardello, who's the co-founder of Datanyze, and another co-founder, Brian Franklin, who was Reid Hoffman's business coach. So that was kind of a cool tie. And we did everything we possibly could with LinkedIn. The tricky thing on LinkedIn is their API isn't open. So, it's hard to automate pieces of it.
But there's so many people out there trying to, hack the LinkedIn. I mean, if you talk about the LinkedIn algorithm for a little bit, I mean, I've seen some really, in my opinion, some unethical tools that are out there to automate LinkedIn, whether it be connecting followers, engagement, all these other pieces that are like kind of the vanity metrics out there. So there's pros and cons to automation, right? There's pieces of automation where it's time efficiency, cost efficiency, right? But you can't automate authenticity, right? Or can you?
The problem is that the automation is getting too good, and the prospects expect some level of like, hey, first name, we see your company's growing. I'm really into this new thing called hyper personalization. It's like, if I want to get in front of Adam Posner, what I'm going to do is listen to this podcast and say at minutes 6 and 12 seconds, you said this, and that relates to this other article you posted. And I start to do context and synthesis between multiple things. We could train a machine to do it, but we're not going to. And so you're going to know it's me. You're going to know it wasn't a template. Like, I'm going to have some anecdote or something so specific. That's the key.
But you're saying that we're training the machines to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like how close are we? How close are we to that?
Parts of my social media are fully run by artificial intelligence, and I can explain why. There's a company called trylately.com, lately.ai. This is used by Gary Vee. It's not proprietary. The founders are awesome. Trylately.com. What it does is I put in a video like this podcast. It uses natural language processing. So it transcribes it in real time. It parses the video and chunks it down, and then it automatically selects snippets of it, and then it broadcasts it to Twitter and LinkedIn. Now, I went crazy with it and did like 200 posts, and all my friends are like, stop. But now I have it like tuned and calmed down. And what it does is it'll pick a little nugget out of this that I wouldn't see.
Right.
And that randomization just makes content really fresh. Now, Gary Vee has a team of 40 people atomizing to 100 a day, but he's also using this technology to get like a 12,000% lift. So I'm using that. It's not inexpensive, but it's pretty far out.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what you could do, but the hard part is the engagement, right? If you're somebody at a Gary Vee level, it really doesn't matter, right? You've already kind of proven yourself out there with the social proof. But is this something to recommend to somebody who's kind of lower level, just getting their feet wet, just trying to build an audience, build a tribe? Or is it counterintuitive to everything that we're doing with real brand building? Or does it really freaking matter?
I think if you have a blend, I curate it. I go through and look at the AI spits out. So one of the things I love to say, I live in Southern California. I'm a big Eagles fan. I'm just like living the life.
And the show is over. Thank you for joining us, Justin Michael. Today, he's a Birds fan and I'm a Giants fan, and we just don't have room for that on the show. So I'm going to thank you for your time. It's been great, and good luck this season. I'm just kidding.
I like it. Well, yeah, so it's pulled out really crazy quotes that I wouldn't have thought to pull out, and I curated and make sure it's good, because when I talk, there's and there's artifacts, but I've also just run it totally raw, and it's also produced cool stuff. So I'm pretty impressed by that tech. There's another one called Lavender, also trylavender.com. I don't know, all these websites, it's like AI.io.
Affiliate links here.
What this does is, as you're writing, it'll do a Flesch Kincaid score. So kind of like the Hemingway app, makes it very simple. It'll gauge the grade level and how successful the writing could be. You can see Grammarly experimenting with this too.
Right.
Like,
I've seen that.
Are you sounding condescending, nerdy?
Sentiment, tonality.
It's telling you all this as you're writing. And what's going to be crazy about some of these tools is, as you're writing, you can click a button and just make it like Shakespeare, or click a button and make it like Kanye West, or click a button and have like a skin on your writing where the AI rewrites it in a tone. There's going to be a lot of really crazy linguistic AI technologies. About 5 billion is getting poured in the next 3 years. So all the VCs have gone, okay, we figured out marketing, let's figure out sales. And here's, boom, $5 billion. And it's going to be nuts. And I've been writing toward the singularity, but that's not going to happen for another 50 years. But there's so many little bridges,
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act, man. And I've gotten into my own, testing with automation from sales and CRM perspective as well, too. And I always find the challenge, which I was alluding to earlier, how do I ensure that the end user understands that this is coming from me? How am I infusing those contextual points that you pulled in earlier, right? How do you make it relevant? Because as you said, we all expect to see that. Like, dear Justin at X company, I love to see what you've been doing in the last X, Y, and Z timeframe doing A, B, and C. We're used to seeing that, right? Like, how do you pull other things in here? And it's fascinating that there's programs out there that are really scanning so many other data points to pull into these emails, but ultimately you still have the control, right? You still have the ability to filter it and throttle up, throttle down, and pick the, you're on the button. So
it's true. So I study this full time. I just like, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I released a book called Tech Powered Sales. It's coming out next year on HarperCollins. And I had to study about 300 of these platforms. It took hundreds of hours to look at them all, take all the demos, talk to everybody. There's one called Cheetah IQ, and Cheetah because when you're looking at publicly traded companies, you want to go into their 10Q and 10K, their annual reports, and pull out these nuggets that are like painful for the executives. Like, whoa, your profit margin's down. Like, here's how our tech will handle it. Still, it's too vague. All the communication is too vague because it's too easy to find. You have to push yourself to do Google searches. Like, one human brain is worth all human compute as an AI. So if I can create a context, it's super powerful. And a lot of that's about mashups. It's like something that I can know about Adam Posner by looking at multiple platforms, like his Twitter, his broadcast, a specific podcast, something that he wrote, and then an insight that shows that I've synthesized that content. Machines can but are not doing that currently. And if you write emails that look like that, you can get in anywhere. That is still the land of hyper is not owned. Now, I've talked to CEOs and VCs pouring millions into this, and they're like, it's going to pass the Turing test. We're going to have hyper. So when we have hyper, then the FTC is going to say, message was written by Justin Michaels AI, because you have to warn the consumer so you don't deepfake them.
That's, I mean, that was the part I was going to talk about. Like, how much of this has to be disclaimed? Right, because what I see on LinkedIn, right? I mean, if I'm using LinkedIn as an example here, I mean, there's lots of automation where people are using either automation and responding AI to posts, which I absolutely I hate that, right? I think that you should really be the one responding and commenting there from an authenticity standpoint. And then even some people are using, VAs and other outsourcing pieces. But ultimately, where's that line between ethics and authenticity? Is it blurring? Like, how much of it from a legal perspective do you have to disclose?
Well, I mean, I've had some good successes with just talking about it. So I fire pixels on my emails, which is common. If you use any sequencer from Yesware, ToutUp, Outreach, SalesLoft, Xant, Groove, I can go to 75 of them. They fire a little pixel, and then you can see how many opens. And I started doing that, and a prospect opened 7 times. It was a few months later, and I fired an email, and they said, "Hey, nice data-driven approach." They knew that I had been tracking them, and it actually helped me break through because I was transparent about the tracking.
All right, so let's pause there. Let's do some real life example, right? So I've been using a platform that I absolutely love called Interstellar lately. I love it. There's my Stephen Liu. There's my shout out to you. I love your product. It's absolutely awesome. It's killing. It's doing great for me. One of the things that I noticed on there too, it tells me how many times someone opens each specific email in my sequence, right? How would you recommend if I see somebody who's, let's say, opened up my email 7 or 8 times within a 1 week period of one of my email touches? What's a good approach to reach out to them where you're not like too big brother? You're like, hey, Justin, I see you open my email 7 times. What's the deal?
I like Interstellar also, and I know Stephen as well, and the other Stephen Brady, great, and Christina Finseth, shout out, great company. So for me, if someone views my LinkedIn profile, I know this is a little assertive, formally aggressive. I have databases of cell phones, so I just call them. If it's relevant, I need to talk to them. They come in on my content and view me. I just give them a phone call, leave them a voicemail, maybe a LinkedIn voice message drop now within the LinkedIn app. And there's actually a video drop. If you go on the native LinkedIn app that a lot of people don't load, go to the message, hit the plus sign. There's actually a video, doesn't sit in Vidyard or BombBomb or any of these platforms. You can put a video inside a message inside LinkedIn, as many as you want, unlimited. So go do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Like, just pause on that because I'm curious there. I've had people that utilize the voice and the video feature on follow up for me, and it is insanely effective. I will always click on that audio because you kind of want to hear what they're going to say, right? There's that human, interest there as opposed to a spammy DM, right? Like, you want to hear what somebody's going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I am always impressed by that. I actually met this guy from BombBomb who'd sent 10,000 video emails, and I helped him get another job, and he went and worked for a friend of mine who had been my direct senior, and he's like, he has a video company. He's like, this guy keeps leaving everyone on our executive team these video messages. He's left 7 or 8 or 9 in the interview. It's so differentiated. They'd never seen anything like it. They're like, we're going to hire him just because this is so innovative. I mean, we sell video advertising. A video-based seller is brilliant. So there's a novelty now. I talked to employee number 10 at Marketo, and he's like, my phone number's in all the databases. Nobody calls me. I get blasted with emails all day, hundreds. If even one person tried, even in personalized knowledge, just picked up the phone and called me, I'd take the meeting just to thank them for trying.
Right. It's just it's that next level of effort. Right. And I think that's where people where they make it or break it. right? They get to a point where they're almost using automation as a crutch, right? Like, oh, I'm doing it enough. It's getting out there. It's a numbers game. But if you actually slow down and go back to the old school tactics of actually engaging with somebody or sending a personalized note, you'll see that effectiveness go up incredibly. So how do you combine, like, the tech and that old school foundational relationship building?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it's tone. When you finally do reach a person, being really calm and not being pushy and just being matter of fact, and kind of, even if they're a perfect fit, saying, there might not be a fit and I'm not sure there's potential. It's so disarming when you stop selling, even like try to talk them out of it. When I get someone on the phone, I finally get them there. I know they feel cornered and like, I'm gonna get sold to, right? So I kind of reverse it at that point, and I really set them at ease. Like, have you seen this tech before? Like, if you just tell me right now that you're not a buyer, I totally get it. I don't want to waste your time at all. Don't feel any pressure, and let them let them try to buy. This is, I think, the big miss with salespeople. It's like they blast the email, they calendar it up, they get there, and then wham, they're gonna go, and it's a recoil effect because they've already pretty much resourced. They have researched and resourced, and they're smart about looking at your company. So by the time they get on the call, they're pretty far along. So you don't have to try so hard at that point.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point about sales. I think that, a lot of even, younger sales folks and even some senior ones, they don't get it. And I think it's really about having that skill set to read a room or read a call, read the audience and understand, is that person in buying mode? And even if they're not in buying mode, how do you, as you just said, how do you flip the call on them to still make it a productive relationship driving conversation? Right? Like,
Yeah. For me, it's all about curiosity and really finding out what's on their mind. Personalization is dangerous because you can get into a very long conversation about, whitewater rafting, which I used to do on the Rogue River in Southern Oregon near Ashland. A lot of fun. So we could just go down that road. But everyone has like jobs to be done, and they have 7 slots in their head, and they have certain pains. So sometimes what I'll do if they're not qualified is find someone else I know that I can match make them with. Like, they're looking for a great SEO person, or they need a dev or engineer or an agency, right? And then I'll ask them, well, can you refer me to someone who is looking for this product or service? And that also disarms the call. And then you just give them back 20 minutes of your day, and you just get a referral, and you help them, they help you. I think that's like what you would do in real life at a networking event. And it's important to think of what you would really do in front of a human in like the real world, and then emulate that in digital. You'll be much more successful.
You hit on two key things I want to talk about there. The first one is the concept of being inquisitive. I think that is one of the most underrated skills that a human could have, and it's one of the highest skills that I look for personally and professionally. Right? I love to see people that are always asking why, not just for the sake of it, but really want to understand how something works, why it works, right? How does that integrate into society, the conversation, technology, right? Are they naturally curious? And the other piece is truly being able to listen in a conversation and being able to be conscious of someone else's time. I mean, time is our most valuable resource, right? Like, time is finite. Time is something that we can never get back. Time is something that we cannot, like, I guess, manufacture, depending, well, if you're Tony Stark, you can, right? But like, if you're on a call with somebody and you realize right away that they're not going to be a customer, think about how much value you're giving to them just by giving that 20 minutes back of a 30-minute conversation, right? Think about how that's going to sit in their head just from like, hey, Adam's a stand-up guy. He realized pretty quickly that this wasn't a match, and he gave me the time back. And you know what? I'm actually going to remember him for that. And it may be now, and maybe in the future, it may be a referral, it may be in a conversation, it may be in an email, but he's going to stay top of mind about doing something the right way.
Yeah, that's a great tactic to take. I'm actually really into this book, The Trusted Advisor by Charles H. Green. And it's just all about building trust. And it's just like when you have a family member and they get some big idea, they're like, I'm going to start a pizza place, or I'm going to go invest in, Monster energy drink or whatever it is. And you're kind of like, okay, let's talk through that. They ask you give me your candid opinion, and you really give it. You just give your opinion. Well, if you sell that way, it's kind of amazing. I remember one of my mentors, he's doing a deal, and he starts talking about the flaws in our product. I'm like, what are you doing? And right after he was done, they're like, okay, we'd like to sign up for this. And it was like a massive order. And I realized, and then this guy, Doug Capone, wrote this book called The Transparency Sale, where they prove that a 4.2 star is far more desirable than a 5. And I think it's the same with people. This comes into vulnerability, and,
love it.
Can go on and on about different authors, but it's a good one.
Well, let's go back to that for a second, right? That 4.2 star, it does a couple things. One, it's going to say, hey, listen, like, this is a legitimate review. It's pretty authentic. I doubt 5.0 stars on anything, man. In this day and age, when you can manufacture reviews, everything from Amazon to TripAdvisor to everything, right? Like, I think it actually causes people to dig deeper into the reviews and see a lot more contextual positives as well, right? Where people
Yeah,
are being very honest. Like, listen, this is a great hotel. Listen, I loved it, but here's a couple of things, right? Like, listen, I highly recommend staying here, but make sure you do it on a high floor because they're doing, construction outside of the lower level. I mean, things like that where it just opens up a little bit more honesty in the conversation and authenticity.
yeah, that's happening from Glassdoor and reviewing companies to, the way that Yelp has tried to prevent people running their own rating systems. And so consumers are very smart, buyers are very smart, and it's okay to have some vulnerability and just display your strengths and weaknesses. You build trust faster, and then just advise people and be courageous enough to tell people what they don't want to hear. Be bold.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
The best example here is the bartender versus the personal trainer when the whole
Please.
Challenger sale came out. So the analogy is the bartender will keep you up till 4 a.m, give you drinks, and you like, seems like it's the best experience. You love them, they love you. They're hooking you up with drinks. You get up the next day, you feel awful. Personal trainer, we pay much more than the drinks for that hour. We pay them to like yell at us to wake up at 4 a.m. and get us to do burpees and all manner
Burpees.
of torture devices. And who do you remember? Who do you trust? So it's like if you're advising and you're telling people what's good for them in their interest, it's harder to do. But then you're that personal trainer and your time is much more valuable and you're a much bigger asset as a relationship. And ironically, you get the relationship by challenging with insight, where if you're just
Fantastic.
feeding the sugar,
Yeah, so let's talk about the book, right? So it's coming out in 2021, Tech Powered Sales. Tell us a little bit of what it's about and why should we be picking it up and buying it on any of our physical or electronic devices?
Yeah, thank you. It's geared towards 6 million sellers. It was originally called technology quotient, which is TQ, which is distinct from IQ and EQ. And just like you can become more empathetic to build EQ, or you can do Lumosity and do, Sudoku and increase your IQ, it's been proven, your neuroplasticity, you can do the same with technology quotient, which is the ability for a human and an interface to connect.
Hmm.
Right? Your ability to understand the UI, the UX, how facile you are with all these new systems, from Salesforce to email automation, like what Adam's been doing, to social selling, to blogging and podcasting, and all the different ways you can become a content machine. But all of those are software overlays inside the screen here. And the more and more you use it, the more and more it bleeds together. And so the book was to help technology avoidant people everywhere. And then the pandemic hit, and all the field sellers are relying on the handshake and the dinner and the event. That's gone. So everybody's just sitting at home with a tech stack. We're even the only reason we're on this computer is probably because of Apple and LinkedIn, and check out the headphones he has. So there's this crazy confluence of technology. I mean, we'll get to the point where people will chip their brain with a microchip and have all human knowledge in the neocortex. Like, are you up for it? I don't know. I mean, it's controversial if I say yes or no, like going into space. We're not even close. But the point is, as we bridge to that, if two sellers or marketers are equal in quality and one understands these tech stacks, they're going to be irresistible from a revenue operations perspective. They're less likely to get fired. They'll retain. They're going to get chosen. So I just encourage everyone with the book to dust off the tech stack and get a little smarter.
I think that's fantastic advice too. And I think this really applies to, we'll call it old school and new school salespeople and marketers, right? It's an old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I think that's absolutely false, right? I think it's incredibly important to be, a student of technology. No matter what field you're on, to be able to properly articulate it, to be able to, be in a conversation like this, or whether you be in a boardroom, a conference room, or at a bar or a restaurant, being able to speak intelligently and eloquently about what's happening in technology and how that applies to business, I think is a completely underrated skill that more people need to take advantage of.
That's completely true. I mean, I've had a unique experience where I've probably met 50,000 people personally. I used to do a lot of fundraising and charity events, and had a cool experience working for Sean Parker at a company called Causes, where we did a ton of like awesome campaigning. But technology is bleeding into every system. It's eating the world, and sales and marketing and revenue generation is critical for the 30 million small businesses, especially in this time. There's so many cool platforms, no matter what you're trying to do, whether it's just using social media to put out your content. You can turn yourself into a brand.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways to produce really high quality content for TikTok, for Snap, for all these new platforms very quickly, link it together, bridge it. I'm involved on a Patreon where you can go there and put in my name, and people subscribe to like these mastermind groups where I walk them through all this stuff, and that's new and that's cool.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that are killing it. I mean, you make it a low price point on Patreon. Like, think about $10. That's not a lot for the average Joe or Jane, right? But that adds up. You have 13,000 people on your Patreon. That's not a bad monthly little extra income.
That's the goal. I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that are absolutely killing it. So we're coming upon the end of our segment here, but this has been a fantastic conversation. So I want to end it with a couple of questions that I ask every guest here. So, Justin, what is the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every single day?
Wow. I think probably the Jeb Blunt make one more call. It's legendary, right? Steve Jobs, I think he called Hewlett Packard when he was like in high school to get in the computer club and test some equipment. Fearless from the beginning. Whole fortunes, whole companies have been made on reaching out and making the call. Now that could be social, it could be a different medium now, but I just think if you're having a slump, if you're at the end of your day, if you're burned out, the really crazy thing to do is just like make a call, like call someone. That's
Love it.
A pretty cool thing.
Dude, that's such good advice. And I really love that piece too, because I've been putting that into practice the last couple of years. And even on a micro level, it's that one more email, that one more follow-up for me as a recruiter, like a couple more, digging into a couple more profiles, responding to a couple more resumes. And that's where the gold is. The gold is in that push. The gold is in that follow-up. And it also pushes yourself and trains your brain to push your limits and be more productive. Right. And push your boundaries. Now that's absolutely fantastic. Give us one kind of out there crazy future tech prediction for 2021.
Well, it's probably not going to happen in 2021, or could it be like anywhere in the future?
2021 till 2025.
2025. Okay. There will be a startup company that is able to generate sales and business without humans at the top of the funnel, like demand generation, like sales development itself, like the emails that out of the building, that automation will get so good. There'll be some companies that just don't need the sales team for the very top. You always have to have the closers and strategic. So it may actually create more jobs, but there will be some facet of sales that is fully automated that some startups figure out how to crack, and we'll be the recipients of it. It'll be an ooh and ah, like, ooh, the computer beat Jeopardy or Go, but it'll be happening, I think, sooner than we think.
Watson.
Yeah, like
Watson. What is Watson for 500, Alex? We'll get there. Justin, this has been an incredible conversation. I definitely want to have you back on because there's so much more I want to talk about, and we're limited to half an hour here. Justin, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, just go seek out Justin Michael on LinkedIn, and my book's going to be Tech Powered Sales. And thank you, Rosalind Rosado, in the audience there. Thanks for your comments. It's been awesome being on here, Adam. Thanks again.
Absolutely, and we'll have him back on. And I'm going to bring in my next guest so you could say hello to him. Trevor Houston, I'm going to bring you on in 5, 4, fix your eyebrows, button that shirt, and let's get him on the show there. There he is. Trevor, what's happening, man?
What's up, Adam? What's going on, Justin?
How's it going?
Man, just living that COVID life. You know what I'm talking about.
So I log off now, right, Adam, or I stay on? Or
I'm going to say goodbye, but I always like to have the guest on to kind of do the transition here. That way I'm not just looking at myself on the camera.
Yeah, you got it.
Justin, Michael, everybody. Justin, take care. I'll catch up with you soon, man. Thanks, everyone. Oh, let me get you back in there. Let's go. Here we go, everybody. We are on to the second guest here of the Podcast Power. I am thrilled to welcome from the great state of Texas in the awesome city of Dallas. Are you in Dallas? You outside of Dallas?
Yeah, man. It's all about the Cowboys, baby.
So first we have an Eagles fan, then we have a Cowboys fan, and me as a Giants fan, man, this is just a rough day. We got this NFC East situation happening here. My man, let's get to it. Trevor Houston, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man?
Thank you for coming on. So I'm going to ask a question that I ask every candidate, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts in a little bit. Trevor, tell me who you are and what you do best, sir.
Who I am? First and foremost, I am a child of God, right? That's first and foremost, right? But what I do professionally, if you're asking me that, I'm in the financial services industry. I own a business there, and I help job seekers. My main passion is helping job seekers to get noticed, create opportunities, and to take control of the financial impacts of their job loss, right? So that's kind of a question where I wear many hats, but yeah, there you go.
Tell me all these days. Favorite Cowboy player of all time?
Favorite Cowboy player? Emmitt Smith.
I got to respect him, even as a Giant fan, man. I mean, he's a class act all the way. The way he composed himself on and off the field.
Oh yeah, I got to do an interview with him, and he was awesome. I got to ask him a few questions, and I'm a Cowboys Club member over there at the Star, and he's just awesome, man. He owns a lot of businesses, and he said that you couldn't work for Jerry Jones for as long as he did and not take away the business aspect of it, because Jerry Jones is just a business
Legend.
genius.
And you got to respect that, even as a Giants fan, right?
Yeah. So his interview was really cool. It was awesome picking his brain. So
that's awesome. So let's dig into your background a little bit. Financial service guy. I have a really close friend that does a lot what you do, and him and I have a lot of conversations, around that job transition, whether it be, rolling over 401ks and other pieces, and really helping people that are in and out of work really ensure, financial stability. So before we get into the show, before we get into, how you're helping from the network perspective, let's talk about some of those fundamentals in this day and age where there's a lot of uncertainty, man. There's a lot of people out of work, right? And we need to have that balance between cash flow and savings and moving from one side to the next. What are some of the best practices at a very high level that we should kind of be keeping in mind right now?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we see is people just don't get a lot of support. They don't get any help, right? So what happens is most people, outside of just, simply balancing their checkbook, most people make the majority of their financial decisions in the workplace, right? It's where they get all their insurance, health, life, disability, long-term care, vision, dental, right? They get their 401k. They're doing all their financial decisions in the workplace, but they're not getting any help. Right. You ask people all the time, like, hey, if you had a question, who do you turn to? If you go ask your HR department, what do they tell you? And they tell you to go 1-800-do-it-yourself, right?
1-800 figure it out.
Yeah, and so you got to weed through all these summary plan descriptions and go through all this stuff, and so people just don't get help at work. And especially when they leave their employer, right? If they get furloughed or let go or fired or whatever, they're gone. Now it's like, okay, I've lost all my insurance, right? So that's my asset protection, right? Because if you have an event that happens and you don't have any insurance, well, guess what? All those assets that you saved up,
they're gone.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
So your asset protection is gone. Your income is gone, right? And no one's helping you have these discussions and to really guide you through that process. And you're having to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in. We help people with that stuff.
Yeah, it's critically important too. I mean, I'd love to know the statistic. I don't know if you know it offhand or some kind of indicator, right? Like how many millions and billions of dollars are just sitting there in kind of these stagnant 401ks that haven't been rolled over. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. People forget about it. They don't realize it. It's kind of like, I forgot to do it. And especially in today's market, like you flip that and it's
You've
lost.
got 70. I read an article. It was 70% of Americans leave it behind, right? So you do. And what we've seen, just being in the industry that I'm in, man, I'm going to tell you what, people lose money. They literally lose it. Okay, because what happens is, let's say I left a company, 10 years ago. Well, companies get acquired. They go out of business. They change their providers. So now it's no longer with Fidelity. It's with some other company. You got some piece of mail somewhere that you threw in the trash. And now once you finally get to a point where you're like, okay, let me start discovering, let me go back. And you start looking and you start digging through all the stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, my money is gone. I can't find it. Now there's processes and things you can do. And that's something that we help with as well. Work. Yeah. I tell people it's like finding money in an old pair of jeans somewhere. Like I help people find money too.
I got an email from something. It was like a fund I had in college, right? And I invested in, I forgot what it was, and I completely forgot about it. It was like $200, and it wasn't a huge turnaround, but literally 20 years later, since college, it turned into $1,200. I mean, imagine that return if I actually took it seriously. And I went, but the process was laborious. But we're kind of going off course here. So let's fill everybody in here. So let's talk about the transition, right? You're a financial service guy, helping individuals. I assume you're helping some companies, small businesses as well too. how'd you get into the career coaching helping game?
Yeah. So, I mean, interesting story. It was all through networking, right? I was networking. I was starting my business and was introduced to a gentleman. We were sitting down over coffee, right? Like old school networking, right? At Starbucks. We're sitting down having a conversation. He's telling me what he does. I'm telling him what I do, right? And we're just having a conversation. And in that conversation, I was telling him, hey, I help people with their insurance, employee benefits, 401k rollovers, things like that. And he goes, you know what? You need to go to this group. There's a career transition group you need to go to. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go check it out. Because he's like, those people will need your help. So I went to this local group and got introduced to Foster Williams, AKA the Job Father. And, went there. And immediately when we walked in the room, though, when I walked in that room, I just felt need. I felt people hurting. People were struggling. There was almost this like, oh man, the energy was like way down here, and you felt, I felt for these people, right? I was like, okay, you can't just go in there. You can't walk in that room and people are going through a tough time. And I can't just walk in there and go, hey, if you guys need help with your 401k, come holler at me.
No, that's not the right approach. No.
Right? Like I would be kicked out of that room so fast. And you know what I mean? So I had empathy. And so I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here to actually support. How can we actually help these people? And in the beginning, it was just sticking around the room, asking questions, figuring out what their challenges were, figuring out what the struggles were. And over time, we developed a process to actually help and support them. And so, it's none of it's tied to the work that we do in the financial world. Like people come get help from me that are job seekers and never become clients. And I'm completely cool with that. Like I'm all about just helping and just providing as much value as I can and helping as many people as I can. And the rest will happen. The rest, good things happen when you help people.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, how have you, picked up some of these pieces? Listen, I watch a couple of the shows and you guys are giving out, advice there. And you don't come from a recruiting and HR, talent acquisition background, right? But you're certainly giving some advice there. Where have you picked that up? Where do you feel that the authority comes from?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So have you ever heard that term, your job search is like sales? Like you got to sell yourself.
I've heard a variation of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to sell yourself. Well, it is 100% sales. You're going into it, and it's just like when I was starting my business, right? I think about it like that, and I go, okay, you know what? When I'm starting my own business, I take on many hats. I have to be the accounting department and the marketing department, and like you think about a business, right? Let's say it's a car dealership. You've got sales, marketing, internet,
all the functions. Yep.
Right. All the accounting, HR, and it's the same thing when you're going into the job search, right? You have to get your resume and your LinkedIn and your interview skills, and you got all these different things you're trying to learn, right? And you're having to do it all on your own. So, and then you got to sell yourself and interviewing. Like the interview is just a sale. I mean, you got to close.
Yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, it's a sales process.
It is a sales process.
And anybody who's trying to say it's something otherwise is wrong. I mean, there's a lot of shit flying around on LinkedIn right now, trying to change the whole dynamic. But ultimately, generally speaking, and there's different extremes to this, even if it's the most casual conversation like we're having right now, to the most rigorous, traditional interview, it's a sales process, man. I think we could agree to that.
100%. The whole job search is a sales process. It's just a little different, it's tweaked. But I noticed that, right? And I started also, we were asking the questions like, what's happening? What's going on? What are people struggling with? And every time people would tell their story about how they landed a job, 9 times out of 10, okay? So 90% of the time, it was a who you know thing, right? It was not what they knew, their background and all that stuff. Yeah, they had to have some requirements and all that, but it was the networking. It was getting that resume in front of the eyes of the right person, getting out of the black hole. And so I'm like, man, that's exactly what I do. I help people with that, right? I help people to get noticed because I'm having to do it in my own business. How do I get noticed in my business? How am I getting the attention of decision makers And how am I closing deals?
Right.
Right. It's the exact same process. It's just for job seekers. I actually teach business owners and entrepreneurs the same strategies that I use to increase their business. So right now I'm creating an online course for both. And what's funny is the content is relatively the same. It's just
it's skinned a little differently.
It's spoken different.
It's skinned a little bit differently, but you kind of hit the nail on the head on something there. What's interesting, that a lot of people do not have the skill set when it comes to the job hunt. Listen, I've been on the job hunt myself multiple times in my career. Each time I've learned, the number one thing that I tell everybody, the number one piece of advice, and you could take this and you could put it in any one of your courses, is you have to treat the job search stronger, more effort, more time than any job you've ever had. Right? It is a full-time job. The second piece is you have to be absolutely disciplined and organized. I think that's the ultimate thing. And you have to have a strategy for it, right? I think that's another piece where people kind of spray and pray. And I see it all the time. I mean, I'm a seasoned recruiter. I'm on both sides of the recruiting equation. I'm talking to candidates. I'm talking to clients. I'm reviewing resumes. I'm rejecting people. I am approving people to the next phase. I mean, I'm a decision maker in the process. So I speak from experience and I speak from the heart, where you need to do things differently. If something's not working, you need to be able to course correct. You need to be able to fix it. But you need to have a strategy. Hitting the apply button day in and day out, the easy apply, the quick apply, that Staples easy button, it does not work. Right. And you have to be disciplined. And I think that's the first step whenever I talk to somebody, whether it be a friend, whether it be a client, a candidate, whatever it is. You got to get yourself organized. But the other piece that I want to talk about is there's a lot of people that do not know how to network. And networking, and let's correct this because I want to get your take on it. Networking does not mean hit the connect button, the follow button on LinkedIn. Tell us, 100%. In your opinion, Trevor, what does real networking entail?
It's about relationship building, man. I mean, it's all about building relationships, right? It's actually more about helping the other person. If I can help, think about it. For what I just told you, right? I'm in financial services. I have a business and I'm networking with job seekers. What am I doing? I'm providing so much value to them, right? I'm giving of myself, my time, my knowledge. I'm giving so much. The only thing that I can ever think what will happen is I'm going to start to receive. Like I will start to receive. And I don't have to ask for it. It just happens.
It's called karma.
Totally. I think it was Zig Ziglar said, if you want to make $1 million, help 1 million people. And if you want to make $1 billion, help 1 billion people. So like, I'm on a mission to help 1 billion people. And so it's the same thing. Networking is that. If I was a job seeker, I would be going out of my way to support and encourage and help as many other job seekers out there, because what you're doing is you're creating a sales team. You've got, if you really genuinely go out and help these people from your heart, not just because like you have to, like from your heart, you're helping them, they're going to go out of their way to support you. And what you're going to do is you're creating walking, talking billboards all over the community that are selling you and why you're the best person and why you should be working at whatever company. And like, that's networking. Help other people.
No, it is. And I think a lot of people are intimidated too. I mean, let's talk about LinkedIn for a little bit here. Listen, man, I've been on this platform since 2006. I've built a truly organic, authentic audience. I'm really conscious of who I connect with. I mean, for me, it's not a numbers game. I don't count followers. I don't count metrics, but for me, I count the engagement, right? I count those meaningful conversations. And, for somebody new coming on to LinkedIn, whether it be they're curious on the platform or they're out of work, it could be very intimidating. Right? They see certain folks with the big numbers, the gurus out there putting out a lot of advice. You got to post, you got to comment, you got to like, you got to engage, follow me. It could be a little bit scary. So what is some advice that you give to some new people coming on to LinkedIn to feel a little bit more comfortable and open to engaging, commenting, and posting?
Yeah, so it's not about, the size of your following, like you said. It's not about that. Now, obviously, I'll give you an example, right? Like I've seen people that have really large followings for LinkedIn, but get very, very little engagement.
Fact.
Okay. And what I notice about that is at some point they were building value. They were giving value, right? At some point, and then they stopped, right? And when you stop providing value, your engagement goes away, right? We all know that. I mean, the only way to get the engagement is to provide value. But for somebody that's brand new, what are the ways that you can provide value when you first step on the scene, right? You're the new guy on town, right? What did I just say before? Give, right? Figure out how you can provide value in others. And one of the easiest ways to do that really is to engage on their content, right? And if you spend maybe an hour a day just engaging on other people's stuff, right? See, and it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to show you what's performing well, what's doing well,
what's resonating, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give you some real-time feedback to listen to your audience.
Totally. And what I would do is, if I was a job seeker, I would do it with those people that are in my industry, right? So if I'm an HR professional, go look up a bunch of other HR professionals and start engaging on their content, right? And get on their radar. Right. Get on their radar.
That's the way to do it. I mean, I give that advice all the time too. Let's just say you're in digital marketing and you're looking for a role in digital marketing and you have your target list of 10 companies, right? Look for those folks in that organization that are active on LinkedIn. It could be the head of social, the head of digital, whatever, and get engaged with their content. And getting engaged doesn't mean leaving one word. You know, we see a lot of this kind of pod content out there. Great post. Awesome. Thank you. That's great. That is not engaging everybody. That is BS, right? We're talking about meaningful engagement where you're adding value within the conversation, whether you're answering their question, whether you're giving your own point of view. I mean, that's real engagement. Now, another really good tactic I say to everybody, we all have a point of view, right? We all have a point of view on something. And it's okay if your point of view is quote unquote wrong to somebody else or right to somebody, as long as you're strong to your convictions and you could back it up, that's going to elicit meaningful conversation. Right, but you got to put yourself out there, and you got to have a position. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts? Because I have mine. What are your thoughts on engagement pods?
You want to know my honest opinion?
Yeah. Go for it.
That's totally fair. So I'm going to give you my opinion as somebody who is a recruiter, right? So I rely on LinkedIn for my candidates and for my clients, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people on both sides of that equation who have been turned off by this platform in the last couple of years because a lot of the bad pod activity. And you and I both know the pod activity that we're talking about, right? We're talking about these selfish posts that are just literally clickbait. And they're selfish from the perspective of the poster just looking to drive engagement. These are the ones that have the like, the follow, they have the clickbaity stories. That is not good. Now, in its purest level, an engagement pod is not bad. Right? If you look at the definition of an engagement pod on the purest level, these are folks where it's like-minded individuals, whether it be in a similar business, a similar mindset, that are engaging on each other's posts. Now, here's where it becomes a conflict, in my opinion. When you are forcing somebody by nature of the agreement within, whether there's an agreement in this pod group that you must like, that you must engage, that's where it rubs me the wrong way. When you're asking people to comment and kind of give their thumbs up to something that they don't agree with, I mean, that's BS, man. I mean, I would never agree. I would never put my name behind something that I don't truly agree on. That's my brand that's going out there in the marketplace. And I'll be brutally honest with you. I think pods have been the downfall of this platform for the last couple of years because it's moving a lot of people who don't engage with them off the platform. And that's forcing me, for good or for bad, and other recruiters as well, to find other resources aside from LinkedIn to do our job in recruiting. That's my stance. That's my opinion. And I know it's kind of a hot topic here. I know there's
no, it is. I love it because there's controversy on engagement pods, right?
And your thoughts?
So I love this conversation because I facilitate and manage over 50 different pods, right? So I create a pod for every summit that we do, right? We do these summits on Mondays with job seekers. And it's for the job seekers to collaborate. It's for them to, it's like an accountability group for them to bounce ideas off of each other, share, it's like you said, like-minded individuals, right? And so it's also for them to help to boost through that algorithm, right? Because, when you're first starting, like you said, it's tough. So we need to get a little bit of boost to their content as they're coming out there. So they have a purpose, and I think it's all about using them correctly. And I love what you said. I've told so many people this: don't engage on anything that doesn't align with your values. Yeah. Right. If it doesn't align with your values,
I mean, that should be anything.
And there are some other pods. It's actually funny. I got kicked out of a pod today. I got kicked out of a pod today.
For what? For not following the rules?
Yeah, they had some rule that whatever. Look, I'm not as strict on mine, right? I'm not like like you have to engage every single day or whatever. Like, yes, do what you can if you're there, and like if you're consistent creating content, you want to give. Again, the more you give, the more you'll get. But look, we all understand people go on vacation. People
aren't on LinkedIn 24/7, man.
Correct. And I responded to the guy and I said, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, I'm sorry, I'm a business owner and I don't have time to just be chatting on LinkedIn all day long. And I was like, if you want to get more influential, bigger people in your pod, they won't either. So I'm sorry I wasn't available at every given moment. So anyways, they can't be this like strict, must engage, look.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's okay to disagree. I mean, I am extremely, I mean, if you follow any of my content, you know that I am very anti-pod, but I don't hold people personally against that. I mean, everyone's entitled to, you do you, boo, right? That's what I say to people, right? And listen, there are so many people on this platform that I consider personal friends that are involved with pods, but it ultimately comes down to the key 3-letter word, which is the how you do it. Are you selling pods? And which is completely, I swear to God, dude, like that is the worst of the worst, because that is a whole other conversation where there's a whole system here where people are selling admission to pods, which I do not agree with. There's a lot of BS there I don't agree with. But you know what? If you're doing it the right way and it's not really getting in the way of my business, right? I mean, that's fine. Like I have better things to do. But here's my question to you, man. And I would love an honest answer on this.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Think about roughly how much time you put in every single day to these pods, these 50 pods that you manage, right? Let's just figure out a time for that. Is there ROI, minute for minute, dollar for dollar, a better use of your time than those pods and the work that goes into it, where you could be doing true biz dev, spending, I mean, I hate to say it, spending time with your family, your friends, your other passions in those pods?
Yeah, so that's why I got kicked out. So I have a VA, right? So look, again, I'm a business owner and I can't just be behind a screen 24/7. So no, if I was literally the one behind each and every one of those pods, no, you're absolutely right. It would not be worth the ROI. 100%. No, it wouldn't.
Right. So let's pause on that.
I have a V. I mean, I've got resources for that. I have a team that works behind the scenes on my LinkedIn profile. And yeah, it does become worth it, because I'll tell you right now, I dropped this episode into a bunch of the pods, right? There's reasons for why I'm doing that. And I
understand the reach game, man. I mean, that's blatantly clear. But here's a serious question. I want to pause on that for a second. I mean, let's talk about VAs, right? People are using them for everything.
Yep.
Where is the authenticity there? If I'm engaging, if I'm actually talking to you on LinkedIn, I do not use a VA. Every comment, every post, every single thing comes from me, and my people, my connections know that. If I'm engaging with somebody and it's their VA talking, I am done with that conversation, right? And it doesn't do anything for me. And if I see somebody like, with these quick replies on every single one of them,
my question to you would be this. So let's imagine that you had 1 million followers.
Right.
Okay. If you're Gary V, are you going to be able to respond to everyone? There's no
he doesn't
possible
respond
way,
to anything anyway.
Right.
Barely responds anyway.
There's just absolutely no possible way.
Yeah. That's a poor example because he doesn't respond
what
anyway.
I'm saying is, like, there are certain influencers that their following gets so large that there's no way. You are 100% speaking to a VA. If you're commenting on any of their content, you're speaking to a VA.
I don't know.
Now I'll explain why I have it, right? So my assistant, I keep her very, very close to me. She's amazing. Her name's Hope. She is an extension of me. She knows my brand. She knows what I say. We go back and forth. So the words are essentially my words. She's just typing them in.
I understand that.
So it actually would be a disservice to my audience, because I wouldn't be able to answer those questions. I wouldn't be able to always get to those people. So I'm actually able to make a bigger impact and help more people because she's an extension of me. So it would be selfish of me to not have her around. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think I don't agree with you 100% on that, but I do truly appreciate that perspective from a business strategy angle as well, too. I mean, I'm just a believer. And listen, everybody uses the platform differently. right? And
Sure.
we have different intentions and we have different business goals and we have different KPIs and metrics there. So I fully agree with you that that helps you scale and you're still having those conversations. But ultimately for me, I mean, it's still, and maybe you call me old school or something, but when I'm having a conversation with somebody, even electronically, it does lack that authenticity. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like if you're involved in a pretty heavy conversation there, whether it's a quasi personal or business one, that's probably going to be you engaging there, right?
Oh yeah. Like I said, she'll, if it gets above her, I guess what you'd say above her pay grade, whatever you want to call it. Like if it gets up there,
it needs to be escalated. We'll call it.
Yeah. She's sending it to my email, sending it to my inbox saying, hey, respond to these people. Right. And yeah, then I'm going in and I'm checking in on the conversation and I'm responding. But, again, when your following gets to a certain point, right. And you're having to work out, like, you're working your business and you're doing nothing. You can't always be behind the screen chatting with people all the time. But those people still need help. Those people still need answers. People still need support. And so, yeah, I'm able to reach more people, help more people. Yeah. And I wish I had 5 of her because she is just that good. She is my voice, right? I've trained her very well. She's been with me for 5 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
She is thebomb.com, and I'm actually going through a process where she's going to be training more people because I need her, you know what I'm saying? I need her to be an extension of me as well.
Well, so. You hit something really important, something that I've been doing for the last couple of years, which is scaling, right? And I think that any good business owner understands that. And I approach scaling in a couple different ways. Scaling and outsourcing, those two things go very close together for me. And the way I approach is if there's something that I am not good at or not strong at, or if it's something that somebody else could do better and cheaper, and that's essential to my business, I'm going to outsource it. But the one thing I don't outsource are my conversations, but I totally get it from a scalability perspective as well. Let's shift the conversation back to great conversation. I appreciate the mutual respect. I love it. I will shoot the shit with this all day with people because I think that there's 2 schools of thought here. There's actually a lot more than 2 schools of thought here, but it ultimately comes down to understanding that everybody has a different business objective on LinkedIn. We are all here to sell something. You're selling something. I'm selling something. A job seeker is selling themselves too. So let's bring it back here to the job seekers and let's talk about this show and your show. And how is this show helping so many people? I was able to catch up a couple of episodes over the last couple of weeks, and I'm super excited to come on the show in October and share my knowledge. And I'm going to share some real good stuff about the job search and how to get in front of people like myself. So we're going to save those secrets for your show. I don't want to give it all away here. But let's talk about your show and how it's helping job seekers out there.
Yeah, 100%. So it is an extension of the community. What we've done is we built community, right? And, we bring on people like yourself, recruiters, hiring managers, subject matter experts, career coaches, anybody that can make an impact. We bring them on and we interview them to find out what the secrets are, what's going to make an impact. And so we've been doing that. We're 225 episodes in.
Awesome.
And it's now to a point where, like, you asked me earlier on what I guess qualifies me to be an expert in this. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not I'm not a career coach or whatever. It's that I've got to speak with recruiters and subject matter experts, and I've learned it. Right, 225 episodes in, right?
It's called osmosis, brother, and you're picking it up. You're learning on the job.
100%. And now I'm teaching. I'm teaching at universities and all kinds of things. So it's your focus becomes your reality, right? And the things that you spend your time on. I am an expert in this. I know a lot more than a lot of other people that are out there because I spend my time on it. I don't have to have a degree that says I am. Yeah. And you can just see the testimonials and all the job seekers that are landing jobs and look at them and go, okay, yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
So let's talk about the job search for a little bit right now. I mean, what are people doing wrong? I mean, listen, this is a insane, I'm going to use the word unprecedented time that we're living in. We went from being an incredible candidate-driven job market up to March 12th, 2020. And then literally on March 13th, it literally flipped itself on its head. And now they are an insane amount more people on the market than jobs available. And I've been preaching to everybody, listen, right now, it's almost like a fantasy football or baseball draft, right? Like the A-list talent out there is incredible. The free agency, you can take whoever you want. There's great people on the market there. And it's really tough for those B through D players to stand out. What are you advising people?
It's hard for the A players to stand out.
Of course, but it's a lot easier too because it's so much easier. But I mean, we're just talking in general, man.
It's just a big old black hole out there, man. I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's a big old black hole. And look, the problem is getting noticed, right? There are some well-qualified candidates out there that are getting overlooked just because of the way the system is.
Yep.
The internet created a very, very large problem, okay? Now we're not just competing locally for the same job. We're competing globally. And not only the internet created that problem, okay, but now COVID has amplified it, like you said, right? Especially because these companies are going remote, right? All these companies are going remote. I mean, a bunch of them. And so now I can, if I'm a company, I can hire from India if I want to. I can hire from wherever. I can outsource cheaper, right? And so now now the pool, the black hole just got a lot larger. And so how do you stand out of that? How are you getting attention? And that's what I teach people to do. I teach people to get those live, real human conversations, the face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball. That's what I teach people how to do. And we're going to use technology to make that happen, right? There are some strategies, and we're going to use LinkedIn. I'm going to show you LinkedIn. I'm going to show you some other strategies. And it's going to require video. It's going to make you get out of your comfort zone. But it works.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing, and you kind of hit the nail right at the end there, job seekers need to step out of their comfort zone. 100%. Right, on the search. They do what feels comfortable. They think at the end of the day that they've done enough. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You push it one more, right? You know, with my first guest, right? We said push it one more phone call, one more email, one more follow-up, right? And I really think,
how about one more personal face-to-face video? Yeah. How about, instead of these messages on LinkedIn that are typed black and white text, or voice, where you know how you can do a voice message on LinkedIn. How about send a personalized one-to-one video, and you take out a little whiteboard and you put their name on it.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's 30 seconds. And you get their attention.
It's standing out, and I think that you really kind of hit it again there. It's how do you stand out from the crowd? I mean, I could tell you. I'll give you a prime example. A couple of weeks ago, we had a role, a project manager in New York, and project manager is a very generic title, right? So everybody and their mother applied to this role, and then we even updated the role to be a little bit more specific in the title, like a week later. But everybody applied to it, right? And we have, I mean, I'm not even shitting you, man. There was like 500 applications within the first 24 hours. Nobody read that it was New York only. Nobody read the job description that it was this and that. How do people stand out? Like even in the old school kind of, you still have to apply, right? Like how do you stand out?
So look, I'm going to tell you something. There's two methods to that, right? Yeah. Okay. And I'd love your feedback on this. Some jobs, by the time you find that apply now button, they've already found a candidate, right? Or they're in the final interview stages by the time you even find that apply now button.
Fair.
So there's that. Or how about this? I know a lady that we were speaking with when we taught, and she said, you know what, applying online is not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually network. I'm going to spend 100% of my time networking, get the conversation started, and I won't even apply until they ask me to apply, right? I'm not even going to apply. Forget applying until I have a human being involved, until they say, hey, send me your resume. Go ahead and apply online and send me your resume. You have the in now. You have the human connection, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the way to do it. There might be a balance, okay? But I like the ROI on that version better.
Yeah, and I think it's a good approach too. And I respect candidates who reach out to me and say, "Hey, Adam, I see you're at X, Y, and Z company as a recruiter there. I recently applied for this job. Just want to give you a heads up." And I'm paraphrasing there. I don't mind those at all. I mind them if they're completely irrelevant or if they didn't listen to the instructions and if it's a New York only job and they live here and they didn't call out that I'm moving there, right? Like listen, if it's a job in New York and you say, hey, Adam, I know the job says New York, but my cousin lives there and I'm moving in with her, right? But if you're completely irrelevant, it's going to piss me off. If you're relevant, and you're literally matching, we'll call it, you're hitting 75+% of those things that we're looking for, that's a great tactic. You're getting on my radar. Just be relevant. The number one thing in the job search, the number one thing to get you that job, I'm telling you straight up, is relevancy from someone's recruiter. Listen, everyone on LinkedIn is preaching right now, whether it be the clickbaity shit or whatever it is, they're preaching character over skill set. You know what? Clients aren't paying me to hire people who don't have the skills for the role that they need. That's fact. You're gonna hire someone to fix your car who's never done it before because they're a really nice guy?
No.
Come on, man. Like, you got to be able to do the job. You got to be able to do the job. That statement applies for entry-level roles. I agree with it 100% for an entry-level role where you're going to learn the skill on the job. And here's the other thing, man. Let's talk about this COVID situation there. Teams are being stretched. The bandwidth for a manager to train somebody who doesn't have all the skills that they need remotely, that's not what we need right now. I'm telling you straight up from the horse's mouth. This is what I do day in and day out. People want candidates that are ready to go and hit the ground running immediately. And I think candidates have to understand that's what's making it incredibly harder right now.
You just have to put yourself, have empathy and put yourself in the shoes of the business owner. Okay. So I'm a business owner, and if I'm hiring somebody, that's what I want too. Yeah. And job seekers, if you're listening to me right now, if you were the business owner, that's what you would want too. You wouldn't want to hire somebody and it takes them 6 months to get up and running.
Thank you.
No, that would be a lot of wasted money for you because your outflow, right? You're a business owner, and that outflow, no. You need to see an ROI. So, put your empathy hat on for just a second. You will want somebody to jump in and really hit the ground running so that it's a return on your investment.
Yeah, these are just the hard realities of the market and the times that we're living in. It's harsh realities, and I think that's one of the toughest jobs as a recruiter is when I have to give bad news to somebody or tell somebody the harsh realities. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. I'm going to be empathetic as hell. Listen, I've been hired, I've been fired, I've hired people, and I've fired people. I've been in everyone's shoes before that I'm talking to. I've been on both sides of this equation here. So I approach everything that I do with extreme empathy, but I'm also going to tell you the truth because that's the way I want to be spoken to. Right. I want someone to tell me the truth. And you could say it with some kid gloves when you need to. So, Trevor, this has been awesome. I greatly appreciate your insight, your wisdom, and our very candid and mutually respectful conversation on a couple of points earlier. I'm really excited to be on your show. So I want to bring it home here with a couple of questions that I ask every guest. And first and foremost, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every single day, Trevor?
Oh, man, that's such a great question. Best piece of advice that I've ever received.
That you take action on every day. Yeah. That's a differentiator on this question, right? Because people could ask best advice they've received and I could quote, whatever.
Wake up early. All right. That for me, that's the start, right? You got to get up. It sounds so simple, but get up early, man. Beat that sun up. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, but I'm starting to think about that may be too late, man.
No. What time do you go to sleep?
I'm about 8:39.
What?
Real talk, yeah, because I still need my 8 hours.
Good on you. You have kids?
I still need my 8 hours, man.
Kids?
I'm not what am I going to sit around and watch TV till 10, 11 o'clock at night? Yeah. No way. Go to sleep. Wake up at 5 a.m. and get your day started.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got 2.
And how old are they?
6 and 12.
So your 12-year-old is probably up later than you on most nights.
No, they go to bed at the same time I do.
Wow, good on you, man. Wow, that's incredible. I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we're shifted pretty late, and that's mainly because pre-COVID, my wife doesn't get home till 6:30, 7 o'clock from work, so she wants to have the time with them. But if you're able to do that, man, that's incredible. I love, and I love this too, and I love when I get a full night of sleep and I get up naturally earlier than usual. Because what I'll do is I'll skimper out of the bedroom and I'll go be productive. That's the gold right there. I love starting work early, right?
Yeah,
getting that kind of to-do list out of the way before you get into the meat of your work.
Early morning calm.
No one's bothering you. No one's emailing you.
100%. Yeah, I'm up before the kids are and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They sleep longer now. They get the 10 hours. I get 8. They get 10.
No, I love it. Last, and I'm saving a couple of the good ones here. But I always like to ask, who would be your dream guest on your show?
Dream guest on the show. I've been trying to get Gary V on, or not Gary V. I'm sorry. Why did I say Gary V? I've been trying to get Grant Cardone I've got talks right now in with Elena Cardone. I'm working with their assistant and all that, and it's just a matter of finding the date. But so that'll end up happening. So Grant Cardone, I got a lot of respect for him. I think that would be a really cool guest. I like your Grant.
Yeah, I mean, I it's so interesting, man, because I've been digging more into him, and there's parts, my business coach comes from his school of thinking, and when you strip away some of the negative thoughts and energy against him, and you really just listen and read what he says from a sales and motivational standpoint, it's fucking gold, man, and it's straight up. Right. I mean, it's factual and it hits you right between the eyes. And I've read a couple of his short pieces and they've really resonated with me. And I think he just gets a bad rap for some of the haters out there.
Oh,
right. The
haters, man.
Judgmental, and I've been guilty of it too. I mean, I bashed him too for some of the shit I see because it's kind of cliche, some of it. Right. Like some of it, you look at it, you're like, come on, man.
Yeah, no, he gets some hate. He gets some hate, but I'm going to tell you, man, I went to one of his conferences. My background is the auto industry, and spent 6 years in the auto industry, and this is 10 plus years ago. And I went to one of his conferences. Man, lit me on fire.
Nice.
Okay, lit me on fire. And
Good.
I went and I was the top producer 6 years in a row, right? With a lot of the stuff that I was taught through that. And so, Grant Cardone, man, he's the bomb.com. Like, the guy's the real deal. Okay, anybody that wants to be a hater and talk bad, look at his empire. Okay, he didn't get all of that from not being the real deal.
Yeah,
just saying.
It's true proof. Look at the checkbook. And last but not least, right? We've all been through some shit. Every one of us has brought us a lot closer together. The ups and downs, but there's been a lot of silver linings, right? So I'd love you to finish off the show today with sharing a professional silver lining and a personal silver lining that you, Trevor, have experienced over the last few months.
When it comes to COVID.
The last few months, man. I mean, we've been in lockdown. Business has been affected. Tell us something good professionally and personally that probably wouldn't have happened without this pandemic.
Yeah, man. Well, let's just put it this way. Like you said before, there's a lot more job seekers on the market, so a lot more people for me to help and support, right? And
I like that.
I mean, there's just is. So I get to help a lot more people right now. And it definitely changed our mindset as far as the way we were doing business. And so we've adapted and we got all kinds of things in the works right now. I've got a mobile app that's being designed. I've got just so many things that we probably wouldn't be as far along. It increased our business, the support that's going out. The job seekers are going to benefit more from it.
Right.
They're going to get more from it, right? At the end of the day, when we turn the lights back on in the country, there's going to be more products and services. I'm creating an online course. There's all kinds of things going on that they're going to get more access to. So that's the silver lining. I mean, we adapted, we pivoted real quick and just went to work, man. That for me, it was like, I got to go to work. I got to help these folks.
You got to do it. And what about on the personal side, man?
Personal side, oh man, silver lining on the personal side. Well, I got to spend more time with the family, even though it feels like Groundhog's Day.
Tell me about it.
But we are spending more time together. I mean, whether we feel like we are or not,
Yeah, no,
I think really it's just awareness. I think awareness, right? And putting things into perspective, because now I wish I wasn't in my kitchen. I love my kitchen, but I wish I wasn't really in my kitchen and could be back in my office, right? And but I can't be in my office right now. So it's like the grass is always greener, right? You always are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, yeah, you're still there. Yeah, grass is always greener. You always want something you can't have. And right now, for a lot of people, when they were in their office, they wanted to be at home. And then now you're at home and you want to be back at the office. It's about just like reflection and like appreciate what you have when you have it. Yep, right?
Exactly. I love it.
Like when this is all said and done, I'll probably be going, man, that was kind of cool to be able to like just be at home and
kitchen in the background. Yeah, we're gonna miss it, man. Well, Trevor, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm looking to coming on your show in October. Where can folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Yeah, man. So connect with me on LinkedIn, right? First and foremost, connect with me on LinkedIn. And then after that, you can go to whoyouknow.show. Okay, that's our webpage, whoyouknow.show. Or you can go to our YouTube page, which is YouTube/Who You Know Show Live, and catch all the videos and all the recordings there too.
That's awesome. And I'm going to link up Justin Michael and all of Trevor Houston's stuff in the comments and notes on the show. I want to thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And thanks for spending some time with me. And everyone across all of our platforms, thanks for hanging out with us today. Couple of quick notes. Episode 96 with Steve Noodleberg is up on the Proper Podcast. The audio version is up on the podcast.com. Next Thursday, close to the same time, actually starting at 3 p.m. Eastern time, I got the Badass Show, man. I got Leah Turner. You know who Leah Turner is? That chick from the UK with all the tats on her. She's all tatted up the blonde. She's awesome. She's crazy. And speaking of tattoos, we also have Zach Babcock coming on to tell his story. It's going to be pretty interesting on a Badass Show. And then episode 97 next week of the podcast, I have the former head of people, the chief people officer for a little restaurant chain called McDonald's, David Fairhurst, is going to be on the show. We talk about D&I and a whole bunch of other stuff. Trevor, I'll let you get back to it. Everyone listening, watching, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. Remember, stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask, wash your hands, look out for each other, and take care. And we'll catch you next week. Hang on, Trevor, for a second. Catch us next week for more podcast fun. Take care, everybody.